In today's video, we have a lot to cover, including the latest offseason trade rumors. Today, we're focusing on teams like Vancouver, as well as LA, Ottawa, Boston. Could Boston get into the free agent mix? Maybe be after Patrick Kane if he's available and doesn't stay in Detroit. We have some big signing as well, as including a top prospect in Gauthier getting his deal done with the Anaheim Ducks. We also have a signing in Toronto as well. News from NHL player safety. The Women's World Championships has wrapped up, so we'll recap that. Plus, we have a potential signing coming in Montreal that we'll discuss as well, and a few more updates on the Coyotes. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here today. Let's kick things off first with the Women's World Championship tournament just wrapped up here this evening. We had another epic battle between Canada and USA, with Canada winning the gold medal 6-5 in overtime. Those two teams always seem to put on a phenomenal epic matchup when they battle for gold. That's always been Canada-US. I think about one time in recent memory for the gold medal in the Women's World Championship. Certainly, that game is growing a lot with the PWHL launching this year. And, of course, now back to the World Championships, getting set for the Olympics in a couple of years. It's just nice to see where things are at with that game. But Canada comes out victorious. It was if you missed it, you definitely want to catch a replay. It was an awesome game. A back-and-forth, nail-biter type of game. They each had times with the lead, and Canada wins in OT. So congrats to them on the big win. As I mentioned as well, we have big news as well in the college hockey front. The University of Denver, of course, yesterday wrapped up the Frozen Four tournament as national champions for the second straight time and the 10th time in their history. Their head coach is actually a well-decorated, very young coach. I wouldn't be surprised between that and his opportunity that he had to win gold with the World Juniors that he will be a sought-after coach at the NHL, and maybe as early as this year. It's hard to say. I'm sure he'll get his name in the mix here. But Gauthier leaves the defeated Boston College team. Of course, lost in that national championship team game against Denver. Gauthier gets his 3-year entry-level contract with the Ducks. Of course, you remember Gauthier was a bit of a surprise trade that we saw this season with the Philadelphia Flyers trading Gauthier to the Ducks for Jamie Drysdale after we had learned that it was unlikely that Gauthier was going to sign with the Flyers. There was something that just wasn't sitting well. We've heard a variety of stories as to why and what all went down, and I guess maybe we don't fully 100% know. Lots of speculation, but either way, Gauthier is a Duck. He gets his contract signed. It does kick in right away. The Ducks only have one game left in this regular season. They have a few days off before it later this week. So I would suspect we'll see Gauthier make his NHL debut later this week. But I know one quote of Gauthier's that's getting a lot of play right now. To me, it wasn't a good look for the young man. Phenomenal hockey player. I know he's confident, but pre-game, before the national championship game against Denver, he did an interview, and he was asked about his thoughts on the game, basically, and what was coming up. And he said there was going to be a lot of tears on the other side. And then they lost. They got shut out. I mean, that Boston College team was loaded. Lots of talent. I mean, there's going to be some of his teammates that are also top prospects, likely head into the NHL in short order too. But yeah, I don't know. To me, it rubbed me the wrong way. It wasn't a really good look. I mean, you can be confident, but you don't want to be cocky. And it just backfired on him. It just, to me, he should have known going in, of course, it's going to be a really tough game. And you got to respect your opponents, respect the game, or sometimes it comes back to bite you. And, we'll see. But he is a phenomenal player. He dominated the college scene, was in the mix right to the wire for the Hobey Baker Trophy. He's going to be a phenomenal player. I just hope that it's not a sign of potential attitude issues or anything of that nature. So we'll see how things go with the Anaheim Ducks. I know they're quite happy to have him here under contract. The other signing we saw today was in Toronto, and this is a unique story. A very unique story. They signed 6'5", 225-pound defenseman Nicholas Matanen. Now, Matanen is a Canadian-born defenseman, born in Ottawa, plays junior hockey in the OHL. He played for the London Knights. He was drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs in 2016. That was 8 years ago. They haven't technically held his rights for like almost 5 years. And he comes back and he signs with them. They basically refused to sign him or chose not to sign him before. Now, of course, back at that point, it's believed that it was kind of looked upon as being like a Mark Hunter type pick. Of course, Hunter's connection to the London Knights, worked with the Leafs for a while as well. And, this is a player that he would have been quite familiar with, right? So that's what some people refer to this pick as, and it's one that kind of looked upon as being kind of backfiring, if you will. But yeah, he was drafted way back then. After being drafted, played a couple more years of junior. Then he went to the University of Ottawa because he didn't get signed in the NHL, so he didn't really have any pro options. So he goes to U Sports. University of Ottawa does that for a couple of years, leaves school, and goes and plays in Europe for a few more years. So at this point, he's got like 2 or 3 years of junior eligibility left after his draft. He plays that out. A couple of years in Canadian university hockey, which is not considered the same as U.S. college hockey. So it's usually the junior players that don't make it or to get the opportunity to go pro is usually what fills up those rosters, at least largely. And then, like I said, a few years in Europe, and now he's signed by the team that drafted him 8 years ago. So, yeah, we'll see what this guy can do. Obviously, like I said, he's got the size and the strength. He's got lots of variety of experience. He's taken the long path, if you will, to the NHL contract. Difficult to say if or when he'll get the NHL opportunity. I'm sure he'll, for now, obviously, play in the American Hockey League and see where that goes. But yeah, it's an interesting story on a Leaf prospect that never was and now comes back, and we'll see, I guess. A few other updates around the NHL as well when it comes to roster moves. I know the Capitals' Nick Jensen was, slammed into the boards awkwardly last night. The Capitals game against Tampa, Mikey Eyssimont. To me, I didn't see anything wrong with the hit. I think the hit wasn't suspendable or anything of that nature. It's just an unfortunate outcome. Fortunately, though, even though he had to be stretchered off, he was seen walking around the arena and left the arena on his own accord. He did not end up being transferred to hospital. He was knocked out. I'm sure he's likely dealing with a concussion. At least that's my suspicion. The fact that he was knocked out and everything that happened, I'd be surprised if he wasn't. And they did rule him out for the rest of the regular season, which is only a couple games. And obviously the Caps make the playoffs. I would think he probably wouldn't be available for the start. Hard to say exactly what these issues. You don't know how long they're going to take to resolve, right? So the good news is, though, it's not more serious. Even if he is a concussion, he could still be dealing with a serious enough issue, which is, another thing. So, but at least he wasn't hospitalized and dealing with anything else physically. Besides that, that's enough. The Oilers were calling up Philip Broberg on defense. They may also call up Raphael Lavoie as well. That'll likely be confirmed tomorrow. And right now, there is rumored to be a signing in Montreal, but I didn't see them announce it yet, so I'm not going to call it official, but it's come from enough good sources that I believe it's happening, that they're signing Luke Tuch, one of their other prospects who played at Boston University, of course, was teammates with Lane Hudson and just eliminated here a few days ago from the Frozen Four. Tuch was a 2020 Habs pick in the second round. Could have been a UFA because he's coming up on his 4 years. Would have been a UFA this summer had he chose not to sign in Montreal. But right now, the NHL insiders, Johnston, Friedman, and a few others, all reporting that they're expecting Tuch to sign, and basically that he has signed. I'm not sure what the holdup is for them to announce it. Maybe it wasn't 100% fully done. But Tuch, of course, related to Alex Tuch. Luke Tuch is a player that's, I'm not sure. To me, he projects as a potential bottom six guy. He can be a third or fourth line player, but somebody you can put on power play 2 or something like that. Not the greatest off the rush, but he's got the size, the strength. He's 6'2", 205. Pretty good when he has that power play time, like as the bumper spot, if you will. Good net front presence, decent battling in the corner, things like that, puck retrieval. So I think he might be able to carve himself a path, but it's not going to be a little bit as easy as some of the other players you see coming out of college. It's not so much a skill player. To me, I think if he's going to make it, I think he's going to have to make it more of a grinder. But we'll see. But either way, he has potential. We know there's good family DNA there, and Tuch is expected to sign in Montreal. We'll call it right now that it's expected because it hasn't been officially announced as of right now. Some further updates on the Arizona Coyotes. Of course, we know that we're expecting an announcement this week. Don't know exactly when. Of course, you never know when you can run into delays. It could, maybe not happen for a few days. But essentially, there's different, or I guess, opinions from different NHL insiders. It sounds like you could get an announcement on this Coyotes relocation pretty much any time. But it sounds like Wednesday, Thursday are the most likely scenario. But we could be surprised by this. Essentially, one thing we did learn, which I talked about in the last video, about hockey operations are going to be able to go to Utah. So the GM, the coach, it's expected that all those people are going to be able to retain their jobs and relocate with the team. Now, of course, they could choose not to, but that's our understanding so far of this. That's going to happen. But I said business operations was not going to be. I didn't know if Alex Muriel was going to be retaining them or if he's going to still have a staff, because if he's still going to be pursuing an NHL arena and still doing the land deal and all those things, that he may need a staff. But, of course, you're not going to need everybody. So it is expected that business operations won't be going to Utah. There's definitely going to be job losses for sure. But the full extent of it, we don't know yet. I'm not sure how much of a staff he's going to need. Now, I know his president, and I always seem to fumble his last name, but Xavier Gutierrez, I believe on his social media, it doesn't reference the Coyotes now. So I'm not sure if he's going to be moving on, or maybe he had it like that before. I'm not sure, because I don't really pay close attention to his accounts, but I just found it interesting that there was no reference to the Coyotes on there. So I'm not sure if he's sticking around or what have you, but Muriel, it's expected to still also remain a member of the Board of Governors, but not have a voting privilege. He's going to be more like an observer. So he'll still be in the loop, if you will, and be able to attend the meetings and all that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, the business operations people are going to be impacted heavily. And apparently we also learned from Elliot Friedman on the Saturday Headline segment on Hockey Night in Canada last night that these negotiations really started to ramp up about a month ago. So like I said before, I understand why so many people are upset because of the way that the Coyotes chose to handle this publicly, and all their postings about going for the arena and all the renderings being posted. It's a complete facade. I'm sure they're still kind of looking at that, but they really misled a lot of people. And as far as Bill Armstrong, the GM, going to meet the team in Edmonton, which I believe was that was Friday, I think it was. Was it Friday, Saturday, whenever they played the Oilers there in the last couple of days. That was on his own accord. I thought originally that he would have been sent by the owner to be like, okay, I can't, because we saw that statement from Alex Muriel yesterday, basically saying he can't comment on anything. I suspected that he was sending Armstrong to tell him what he could, what they could tell him. And that wasn't the case. I guess he kind of took it upon himself after seeing everything publicly and hearing that there were so many, concerns and questions and all that, which you can only imagine, that he said to himself essentially that, I got to do this. So he did. So like I said before, there's a lot of people saying that, the trust is completely eroded with his former or soon to be former owner, Muriel. The other question mark here is if he's going to retain the rights to the name and to get an expansion team, could he work maybe further, get this arena deal a little bit further along? And is he going to have the ability to sell those rights? Because he's already getting a handsome payday from the NHL to not own them anymore. Getting an overpayment for sure. They're trying to make him happy here so that he doesn't try to pursue legal action and that there's no loopholes he's going to find or something like that, right? But if he's going to, if he's not going to be the owner, could he sell that off down the road instead of getting a team himself and then profiting again? I don't know. There's lots of question marks. On to the rumor mill, though. Things that we are hearing around players and movement and all that. Let's talk first about Ottawa. Some notes from Bruce Garriock, a couple of recent articles. One, rumors expected that, of course, last summer we saw the Shane Pinto contract drag on forever and a day. He ended up getting suspended over the whole gambling thing, which, kind of put everything on the back burner. He signed cheap to get through the rest of the season once he was allowed to return. Right now, he would like to be able to participate with Team USA at the Men's World Championships. I believe the USA team would like to have him. But he, of course, players don't like to usually go without a contract because they don't have that security. If they get hurt or something, they don't have anything to fall back on. So it's believed that before the Worlds, and of course that's coming up here just in a couple weeks, that he would like to have a contract done. Garriock says that they've been discussing 5 and 6 year deals. I mean, to me, he more improved himself and how his value and what he means to the core of this team. They were a way better team after he returned in the second half, and clearly he put up good production after missing half a season to step in like he did and produce like he did. He's definitely, a piece of the puzzle that they want to keep long term. And the longer they have to, the shorter, I should say, that they go to sign him, and the more frequently, if he has to renew his contract again and again, it's just going to keep going up. The price is not going to go down. He's only going to keep getting better. He's 23. He's, really kind of hitting his stride here. So expect a likelihood, until it's done, it's not done, a 5-6 year Shane Pinto contract. Hopefully sometime next few weeks before the playoffs are too far along. And also in Ottawa, Garriock's also reporting that with the goaltending being a major issue all season, that don't expect him to move Korpisalo. Korpisalo, to me, he's gotten the starting role. He's gotten more of the games. His numbers are not where they need to be, but he has been better in the last, probably say his last 20, 25 starts were way better than his first half, right? But the contract's not going to allow them to move him, and the fact that they changed goalie coach and they've seen a better version of him towards the end of the year, because a buyout would be very costly. A trade's going to be very costly. Expect Forsberg to be the goalie that moves on and another goalie to be brought in to work with Korpisalo, and they're going to hope that the goaltending coach can work some magic here. So I don't know. It's risky, and I understand why he'd be very difficult to move, but yeah, it's hard to have confidence in that right now. Also expect one of the left shot D, whether it be Brandstrom or Chychrun, one's going to move. I do think with the contracts we've seen lately for Hanifin, I think the odds of them signing Chychrun got a little bit better with that. Some are arguing that Brandstrom had a great year and he's finally breaking through and it shouldn't be the time to trade him, but you have too many left shot D. You have too many similar type left shot D. You need some different type of defense, but ideally with some beef and size back there. I think you sell high on Brandstrom. I think if you're going to trade Brandstrom, now is the time, because he did have a good season. And honestly, I would probably keep Chychrun over Brandstrom. Provides a lot more production. And I don't know. Just, one of the two, you can't have Shabbat, Sanderson, and Chychrun and Brandstrom. There's just too many lefties. You need to bring in another right shot D. I have a feeling Travis Hamonick's not going to be back. He still has a year in his contract. He's basically disappeared. I'm not sure what happened, but I think he's going to Robidas Island. And Dominic Kubalik definitely not coming back either for the Sens. But there will be movement on that blue line for sure amongst the left side. I have no doubt about that. Another piece of the puzzle here in the rumor mill is the Los Angeles Kings. Pierre-Luc Dubois is a player to watch this offseason. The Kings are not happy with their acquisition. Mind you, it's not going to be easy to do, but they are expected to at least explore it. Certainly, he's been up and down the lineup. We've even seen him on the fourth line at times. He has his moments where he shined through and got a couple of goals here and there, look good, but for the most part, he's been a disappointment, not living up to expectations, and I don't think the Kings are overly happy with that trade with the Jets. The Jets side of things are certainly looking a lot better right now, and, buyer's remorse, you could say, so to speak, but again, I don't know it's going to be easy to do. It's just a name that I keep seeing out there as a bigger contract that would be challenging to move, but you never say never, and they're going to explore it. Yeah, it's just not, and especially with the emergence of Byfield this year, you already have, you got, look at your centerman, you've got Kopitar, you've got Danault, and now you've got Byfield. Eventually Byfield will move to the middle. I don't know that do you really want Dubois to be a third-line player? Danault has proven that he can be a second-line guy. I don't know. To me, I was a little confused on the move. I mean, at the same time, the way he's played, I I don't know. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the deal at the time, and it just hasn't worked out. So again, doesn't mean he's going to move, but it's clear that there's frustration with the team and his performance, and it's something they're going to explore, but very challenging to do. So odds are against them, unfortunately. In Vancouver, another player to watch is going to be pending RFA, Filip Hronek. Hronek's a player that the Canucks would like to keep. I think there's desire on both sides to stay, but at the same time, I don't know if there's desire for the Canucks to pay him what he's going to be looking for. Frank Saravalli recently appeared just in the last day again. I think it was Friday on Vancouver media. And again, reiterated the fact that this guy's contract that he's going to want is going to start with an 8. And I don't see any way they can pay him more than Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes is likely going to win the Norris Trophy this year, and you're going to, everybody understands things change over time. The cap changes, and the contract that you're getting today would not the same as you would have got a couple of years ago, whatever. But I don't know. Sometimes you're going to have a benchmark and a limit, and it's like, look what the Bruins did for so long there. Like nobody was going to get more than Bergeron, and Marchand, as those guys worked themselves up, they're like, okay, you can get a raise, but look at Pasternak's previous deal. They had to abandon that now with the way things have changed economically with the game and Pasternak, McAvoy, and all that. But for the longest time, they didn't have any massive contracts. They had a lot of average, middle of the road contracts, but really good players because they all understood that they had to take less to win. And in Vancouver, but it sounds like the information from Saravalli is that Hronek wants 8+. And if you look at Hanifin, which he uses as a comparable, Hanifin's a little bit older, a little bit less productive, and he's also in a position with no state tax where you'd normally get a little less, and he got 7.3. So if Hanifin in a tax-friendly state is getting that, and Hronek's a little younger and a little more productive, he can ask for more money. So it's going to get it up around $8 million. So again, the Canucks have been happy with their acquisition. The contract demands might push them to make a move, though. So be an interesting thing to see. Unless they can convince him and his agent that the Quinn Hughes contract is the absolute max and get that number down a little bit, we could see some activity there. So we will see on that front. And in Boston Hockey Now is reporting some interesting information. There was clearly interest from the Bruins on Patrick Kane before he made his decision and signed in Detroit. There's lots of question marks about the future of Jake DeBrusk in Boston. As I mentioned before, he could be a trade target, but he is a pending UFA, right? So it doesn't mean he's going to be traded with a contract signing. That could happen, but more likely scenario would be if they decide they're not going to bring him back, that they could maybe trade his signing rights to another team. Let's say, he wants to go home to Alberta, for example, and either the Flames or the Oilers are wanting to sign him, they could trade his rights. They're not going to get much, maybe a 5th-round pick or something like that, but it's something, but rather than nothing because he is UFA now, and maybe they gives them an exclusive negotiating window before he hits the market. So you could see something like that, but the kind of the article here from Jimmy Murphy is wondering about their renewed interest in Patrick Kane. And of course, we don't know if Patrick Kane's going to hit the market. But once we get his decision, if he stays in Detroit, well, clearly it's not an option. But if he decides to explore free agency and talk to teams again and make a decision that way, then he expects the Bruins to kind of get back in the mix. We know Don Sweeney's going to have more cap space this offseason than he's had in a little while. If the Bruins don't have a deep playoff run again, of course, after having an early exit last year after a historic season, it's expected that they're going to want to try to retool here a little bit. And we're probably looking at, I don't expect to see change with Montgomery or Sweeney, but it's going to be in a position where it's like, okay, one more shot at this, and if it doesn't get better and you don't win a cup or you don't go deep, then we're going to make changes. So that's where things are at. So there's not a lot of pressure there now, but if they have an early exit, it's going to be. So it's possible we could see a move like a Kane come in, who's been clutch for the Red Wings. But will he want to stay in Detroit? He's having fun. The team is doing better. They just might qualify for playoffs. We don't know yet. They still have 2 games left, both against the Habs in a home-and-home series. And if they take care of their own business, their odds are really good to get in. So Kane could be a big part of that, and I'm sure there's going to be interest there from Yzerman to bring him back. But what kind of contract is he going to want? Will they come to an agreement? Or could a team like Boston or another team get in the mix here? I think Kane's going to be very interested in trying to win again before it's all said and done. So, a team like Boston who's, good year after year and always in the mix would be appealing to him. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.